What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Big Man on Campus college football preview video. Today we are taking a look at the big game, the national championship game going on Monday down in New Orleans, LSU and Clemson. I guess we could figure LSU is the home team, only traveling about 81 miles. Clemson going a little further, almost 600. But, Joe, a far cry from last year's game, I believe, which was held in Santa Clara, I believe. So nice southern atmosphere for both teams, both groups. I mean, you got to agree, Joe, before we get into the stats and what we think is going to happen, you've got to agree these are the two best teams in the country.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And, certainly LSU, when you pretty much clinched your Heisman bet, showed that they were better than Alabama. Although, if Tua were healthy, who knows who the two best teams in the country would be. But no, I don't think any sane person would dispute that these are the two best teams in the country.
A couple of things to keep in mind. Under Trevor Lawrence, Clemson has never lost.
Yep.
Joe Burrow, same thing. But again, we are going to have a loser after this game. Joe, LSU hasn't trailed an opponent in over 25 quarters. Pretty impressive. Let's get into the game. Currently at betonline.ag. Make sure you're checking out BetOnline, the best offshore book in the business, and it's not even close. LSU laying 5.5. A total currently 69.5. If you like LSU on the money line, you got to lay 220. If you want Clemson on the money line, plus 190. Joe, first things first with LSU. We know what this group is capable of on offense. One of the best offenses we've seen in some time. I mean, Joe Burrow has had just an unbelievable season. And it really has been, and when you watch him play, there's really no way to stop the guy. I mean, whether it's under pressure or, you get to the blitz, he just gets out of it and runs out of the pocket and completes to a Justin Jefferson or whoever. He's got a 14-1 touchdown interception ratio under pressure. And when blitzed, he's completing 72% of his passes. But we all know what Brett Venables is capable of. We all know what this coaching staff for Clemson is capable of. And we know that when LSU has the ball, generally it's going to succeed. But this is going to be the biggest test. But we saw what they did to Alabama, a seemingly good defense over the season. We saw what Clemson, at least towards the end of the regular season, they struggled a little bit getting stops. I guess my first question, Joe, is, and I want to make this clear, one bet that I will make on this game is I like Clemson in the first, or LSU in the first quarter in this game, -0.5. This team is generally very good in the first quarter this year. If you know anything about Clemson, they generally will defer. And Clemson generally in these types of games will kind of play from behind. I think LSU is going to have first crack at the football, and they've had success in the first quarter. They've had success in general, but you look at Clemson on their side of the ball. Obviously, we know they have plenty of weapons as well, whether it's the quarterback Trevor Lawrence and his ability in the pocket. But what I've loved about Trevor is his ability now to run with the football, Joe, has been really impressive.
Yes.
He looked great the other night against Ohio State. We know they have to be the advantage in the run game with Etienne, Justin Ross, T. Higgins. There's so many options for Clemson on the offensive side. We also have to remember Dabo Swinney has painted this team, and they are an underdog. Seemingly every title game, they are an underdog. Before I get your prediction, Joe, I'm going to make this clear. This game, to me, I think should be a classic. Will it be the USC-Texas game in 2007? I don't know. Probably not. But I think it'll be quite the game. You've got two terrific quarterbacks. You have plenty of skill position players. I just think Clemson, I give the slight edge defensively in. I'll gladly take the 5.5 points here. I'll go against the public any day of the week with a team that I have no reason to believe can't win this game.
You're definitely right. Look, as you said, Brent Venables is widely considered to be perhaps the best assistant coach in the country. He's beloved. He could have a head coaching job tomorrow if he wanted it, but he's paid a ton of money there. And with a rebuilt defense, a lot of people thought that Clemson coming into the year, their defense was kind of a question mark. There were very few questions on the offensive side, but at the same time, look, they did put up numbers against an ACC opposition. They've never seen an offense like this. Also, they had the advantage of playing ahead all year, and that's a big advantage when generally the other team, there's a very good chance they're going to be passing the ball. It's interesting, Jeff, that you said that one of your favorite bets is a first quarter bet. I agree with you, except mine is on the total. I look at this and I'm like, both of these teams this year, they've maybe faced teams that tried to shorten the game as long as they could, keep the ball away from them, keep their offense off of the field. But I look at these two teams, and I think this is going to be like an Aaron Pryor fight. I know Aaron Pryor's a little bit before your time, but he was one of the most exciting boxers to watch. He would just come out, run to the center of the ring, and start swinging. I can't see why either team would want to be conservative, want to slow the pace down. I really think both of these teams are going to come out swinging. Both of them are going to say, we're not afraid of your defense. I think I've got the better offense. It's hard to believe that we're in a game where Trevor Lawrence is considered to be the second best quarterback in this game. I would be shocked if both coaches aren't extremely aggressive on offense. And I like the over. I think it is 16.5, actually. 16.5 over in the first quarter, I think, is one of the best bets. Arguably the best bet of the game. Maybe it's, I think it's more exciting to bet the full game side in total. I guess it's just the way my DNA goes before. You could bet, quarters and all that other stuff. But I think really the first quarter over is a pretty strong bet.
You look at some of the things that I think Clemson can really exploit. Obviously, Clemson has one of the better offensive lines in the country. I'm not going to go ahead and say LSU's offensive line's good. I don't think it's great. It hasn't really needed to be great just because Burrow has been so unbelievable. But you also look at LSU, their defensive line doesn't get a ton of pressure. I think they're like 65th in sack percentage in the country, which is not great. I got to be honest, a lot of people have talked about taking the under in this game, and I could see it. I could see a low 30s for each team, but I mean, both these offenses should be able to move the football at will. I mean, I know both defenses. I think you make a good point, though, about the inability of Clemson to really play any high-level competition all season. You've got to wonder maybe that defense is a little, more wiry than we might think. As far as LSU, I mean, I said before, obviously the game against Oklahoma, they did give up 28 points. I'm not really going to put that into perspective here, but I talked about in the preview to that game, LSU's interest in seemingly allowing teams to run with them and play high-scoring, tempo-driven games. And you see all the game against Florida, the Alabama game, even the game against Oklahoma. This team just scores so much that they score so quick that it's almost imperative that they're going to let the other team have plenty of cracks at it as well. And we see now efficient Clemson's offense is. I think if you're going to take an under here, you're really playing with fire. Do you really want to – I mean, seriously, we've seen LSU many times, Joe. Do you really want to be the guy sitting there saying, fuck, man, this is 14-7 with 2 minutes to go in the first quarter and say, why the hell did I bet these two under the total? I feel like if you don't like the over, just sit that out, take a side or get involved with a prop of some sort. But, yeah, I like LSU. It seems like generally they've had a lot of success in the first quarter. I'll come out and jump on board with that, but I think Clemson's going to cover a full game. I think this game comes down to the final possession. I'll take the team that has been proven in this situation. And, to be honest with you, Joe, if you gave me these two teams, what they are right now, I'll give Clemson the small advantage because they have Dabo Swinney and Brett Venables, and, LSU has Ed Orgeron. I mean, Ed Orgeron's a great guy. I think he's a great motivator, and I think he's shown, Joe, that he can command the entire team. But I think you and I both know that if Joe Brady's not at LSU, they're probably not here. I think we all know that. Give me Dabo, give me Brett Venables. I like Clemson. I think they win the game. I really do. I think they win, 42-35, something like that.
Yeah, and I'm like shocked that remember we got the defending undefeated national champions, a pretty big underdog here, and still though getting back to what I was talking about, you talked a little bit about the over or the under. Ohio State left some points on the field. A lot of people think Day was a little bit too conservative in his play calling. When they're up 16-0, I was texting with another handicapper who works for another company, and he knows that I'm kind of a new Ohio State fan because my son goes there, and I'm like, they've left too many points on the board, kicking these field goals, and then of course throwing the interception at the end and maybe punting when they probably should have gone for it. So I think Clemson can be exposed on the defensive side of the ball, but still their offense is so good. And, we talked about maybe their defense came in with some question marks, but the truth is, I think it was understandable where, all the pressure was on Trevor Lawrence. He was the overwhelming favorite at the beginning of the year to win the Heisman Trophy. Off of a national championship, maybe there was a teeny bit of a hangover. There wasn't a sense of urgency for their offense because they have been there and done that. I agree with what you said about Venables and Dabo. There's a lot to be said about having been there and done that. And I think that Clemson was really the one team in the country that was capable of turning it on. I think they clearly have turned it on offensively. And as you said, Trevor Lawrence showed the last game. He can run. I mean, he's a tremendous pocket passer, but look, when you're talking about a semifinal game or a national championship game, he's going to use everything he's got at his disposal. And the fact that he's probably a better athlete than all of us realize, and I think he proved that the last game, does tell me that I think it's going to be a struggle for both of these defenses. But like I said, I still think that the big strategy is going to be to come out swinging with Allaire is healthy, it looks like, for LSU. So they're going to have all their weapons. Maybe the fact that, we finally got 2 weeks in between games, that's a chance for everyone to get healthy. And there were really some guys, really, I think, especially with Allaire, that's probably going to help the offense more than the defense as far as, getting guys healthy. So, yeah, I don't, whether or not this is truly two tremendous defenses, especially on the part of Clemson, we will see. But I do think there are going to be a lot of points in this game.
Keep in mind, we would expect a close football game here. This is something to keep your eye on. And I forget where I saw this, but definitely something you want to keep in mind. Cade York, the kicker for LSU, has not missed a kick inside 40 yards and only has missed one from more than 50 yards this year. He's 4 from 5. You look at Clemson's field goal efficiency, 114th in the country. Not good. Kicking could be a concern here. And could be, Joe, maybe the reason this game is decided. Who knows? One thing I know about Cade York, the kicker at LSU, he has been automatic this season as far as that's concerned. And you remember a couple of years ago, obviously Clemson had a guy named Chandler Catanzaro. There's been some kickers over the years that have been real useful players. We all know over the years teams like Alabama who have seemingly lost games because of their special teams. So keep that in mind. Joe, I'll ask, do you ever get involved with any other props or anything like that? Do you have any calls for some people? I'll tell you this. I talked about LSU and their penchant for generally getting the football and going down and scoring the football. Justin Jefferson at 10-1 to be the first touchdown scorer doesn't sound too bad, to be real honest with you. That's a nice price. Maybe get that out of the way quickly. But any props, Joe, that you look at? Any ones that you had written down?
I'm not a huge prop guy. I do mess around with them in the Super Bowl, and I even say I like to bet lunch money. But I will say this. I will take a look at, the under probably on the number of field goals. I do think that if either one of these teams is in one of those situations where it's 4th down and 1 at the 36, they're going to say, Ohio State made that mistake of settling for field goals. I wouldn't be surprised in a lot of those 50-50, 60-40 situations if both of these teams are actually going to go for it, because settling for field goals could come and haunt them at the end. So I would probably take a look at the, over-under on the number of field goals and strongly lean towards the under. And like I said, because I do expect that both of these teams to come out pretty aggressive, even if there's, a number of passes by each quarterback in the first half and the first quarter. And I wouldn't be surprised. You talk about some people like the under. If I am right, and this game is high scoring early, I might take a look at the under on a live line. If it gets up there, to 78 or something like that, I would certainly consider that.
Keep in mind, Joe, one other thing about a prop, maybe Trevor Lawrence, no interceptions. He's thrown 202 straight pass attempts without an interception. That's the longest in Clemson history, and it's the longest active streak in the FBS. So, you've got to figure Joe Burrow doesn't throw a ton of interceptions either. This should be a clean football game with plenty of points, you'd imagine. Official play for me, I'm going Clemson plus 5.5. I know I had a caller, Joe, to my podcast the other night. He told me he drove 3 hours because he got a 6, and he drove and picked it off. So, hey, look, I mean, some people – that's how to be sharp, sometimes you got to go get the best number. I'm going to see if I can somehow find one. I don't know if I will, but some of the locals down here, maybe in South Philly might have something. Who knows? I also like LSU in the first quarter -0.5. And I will look at some props down the road. But Joe, real quick, the average ticket price, $1,000 to see this game. Or starting ticket price is $1,000 to see this game. So LSU hasn't won the title in a long time. So those fans, it's going to be a home atmosphere likely for LSU. I mean, a lot of LSU fans, 81 miles away, Joe.
Yeah, and that's very important. I always talk about what I call the neutral field advantage. This is clearly not a neutral field game. It's interesting that you would say that because a friend of mine, his wife is, I don't know if she's an LSU graduate, but she's from there and she loves it. And he took her to the semifinals here in Atlanta. And he was saying, I think he was looking today, he told me, I didn't look myself, but he said the prices are actually going down because he's kind of monitoring that, maybe getting a last second ticket and taking his newlywed down to watch the game. But yeah, I'm a little bit surprised at that. I would have thought, if anything, it would go up because, it's first of all, it's a fun place to party down there. And second of all, the LSU fans are definitely going to be trying to gobble up those tickets. They're pretty passionate down there. But yeah, I think the best play is the over 16.5. But like I said, after we cash in on that, I might consider the under on a live line.
Joe likes the over 16.5 in the first quarter. I think that's definitely worth a look as well. Joe, should be a great game either way. I want to tell you thanks for all the videos this year. We did plenty of them throughout the season here on my channel, and I'm sure we'll do them next year as well. Joe Duffy, before we let you go, give a plug at what you're doing over at offshoreinsiders.com.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jeff, for having me on. I always appreciate the exposure here and where we were both used to be on a lot and whatnot. And I know you do a phenomenal job. And like I said, when it comes to the organic handicapping, there's nobody. I'm not going to try to pretend I know the rosters inside and out the way you do. But, it's a different type of handicapping that I do. But, yeah, at offshoreinsiders.com, we do have a big weekend of both NFL and, of course, the college football. And later tonight, I'm going to get started on tomorrow's basketball stuff. We do a bunch of advanced analytics. If you've never visited my site, give it a look at offshoreinsiders.com. Been doing this full-time since 1988.
Yeah, Joe's been doing it longer than I've been alive. So put it that way. I know I don't want to make him feel old, but I was born in 89, so you definitely been doing it. Joe, people are asking me for an Ed Orgeron impression before we go out. Okay, this will be the last one I do for the season. I'm done with it after today. I just don't feel like doing it. All right, Joe, ask me a question that Ed Orgeron would be asked.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because my wife has on Waze, she's got the Cookie Monster installed in there, and every time I say Ed Orgeron's doing the voiceover, she's like, "Who the heck is he?" He actually was asked this question here in Atlanta. And, of course, you know that I love this question. So, hey, Coach Orgeron, where is the best place to get Cajun food in New Orleans?
Well, that's a great question. I love my food. We come over to wife kitchen. My kitchen. We got some real great gumbo down there. My wife, she put a little pep in it. A little pep in the gumbo. But yeah, I would say come over. I'll invite you over. I like that pink shirt you're wearing. Go Tigers.
I definitely want to come over for that, Coach. And I would very much be looking forward to having some gumbo over your house for sure.
Well, we'll make that happen. Let's get away here. We make it happen. We make party.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate you all. Check me out on Twitter at Jeff Nader. Check Joe Duffy out as well at offshoreinsiders.com. We'll see you next season here, breaking down college football. Enjoy the college football national title game. I like the Clemson Tigers +5.5. I also like LSU in the first quarter, -0.5. Joe Duffy, over 16.5 in the first quarter, maybe a live under. We'll keep track with him. Everyone have a great night. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game.